Tell me the second verse.
Yeah. I think it's similar, like an ambient kind of vibe.
Okay, ambient. And how's it meant to feel? Ambient?
It's ambient cruisy. There's like a cruise to it as well. Okay, for you, when you come in, it's verse,
Yeah.
pre-chorus,
Pre-chorus.
chorus,
Chorus.
and bridge outro. So the bridge is the
Is the
pre-chorus.
outro?
This is pre-chorus now. Bridge is the outro, yeah. Bridge has like an outro attached to it. I don't know if it's some kind of like faster groove. Or maybe like bring the toms in instead. Or something like build, it's like a build up. The bridge is like a little bit of a build up.
Okay.
That leads into like a refrain of the chorus outro. I wanted to like build momentum.
In the bridge, right?
This is the bridge, yeah. And then it builds up.
We'll listen to it one more time.
Yep. Build into this. I don't know whether it might be interesting to change the groove there to be a bit, instead of less kind of like side to side, to kind of be a bit more, like more rushed a little bit, anticipating. So it's kind of like rushing a little bit to be a little more straight instead. I don't know, maybe try that. Can you try just something, maybe like instead of just one snare for that bridge outro, maybe like one snare and then add like a double or something, like something else rhythmically to see if that builds a bit more anticipation.
Okay.
Just a bit more change in that.
Yeah.
I'll take you from chorus to bridge outro.
Yeah.
Alright, so the next song I'm currently working on, it's called This Will All Make Sense Someday. And that's the running title that I'm pretty much 99% sure I'm going to lock in. There's a bit of a history behind that title, and that's something I'll explain shortly. But if you haven't seen the first part of whatever this series is going to be, I did lose quite a bit of footage, so I thought to compensate for that, I'd kind of just give a bit of like a verbal conversation about the song and my thought process. And whether this song makes it on the album like the other two, I'm not too sure, but there is a bunch of songs that are currently going around in rotation, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to decide on a theme and see what songs really kind of gel with it. But I'm not really thinking too far in that sense. I'm just more focused on being able to write music that I really love and songs that really resonate with me, and that's kind of what I'm doing currently. So the background of this title specifically, I remember writing this early on. I've got a bank and catalog of all the song ideas that I have, and that song title stood with me straight away because it's something that I've been using quite a lot. I remember when I was really young, John Mayer released his documentary for, I think it was his first EP as well, and he made a series called This Will All Make Sense, or This Will Make Sense Someday series, and that was him, I think, getting into his first record label deal and recording his first like 5 to 8 songs. And he recorded that process himself, a bit of like a vlog for back then. And I remember watching that when I was really young and absolutely being so enamored by that whole process and getting a look behind it. That was so cool. It was exhilarating, and I remember that every time. And I haven't forgotten the first time I watched it and vividly realized that this was really something that I want to do, and this was something that means a lot to me. And writing music must just be so cool, and being able to have your songs heard by so many people would be so cool. But being able to write music from within must be such a cathartic experience, and it has been. It stands the test of time. That the younger version of me really did feel that way, and the present version of me really still feels the same way. And now I can actually make these songs, whether they're good or bad. That's not for me to decide, but I know it feels right to me, and they're the right songs. And I trust my instincts and gut more so when it comes to making these choices, because if I choose to think with my brain, oftentimes I get lost within the weeds and I can't tell the forest from the trees, and you get really confused. So I've really tried to trust my gut on these kinds of songs, and This Will All Make Sense Someday was one of these songs where I was playing in a drop D tuning, I think, and the acoustic guitar, and I'll just be throwing out ideas, and if I have an idea, I'll quickly just mark it on the video recording and run with it. And I had this really cool kind of acoustic finger picking style guitar, and it just sounded really ambient, really sweet, really thoughtful and singer-songwritery. Yeah, and as I was working through the lyrics, I really wanted to include these lines, "This will all make sense someday." And I could feel that it was building up towards that kind of line, and I really wanted the impact of that to be that line. Everything about it, I remember when I finished the first verse and chorus, it felt like such a release, such a cathartic experience, almost connecting with that vivid part of myself that remembered watching that documentary from John Mayer. I think I've got here that just a couple of words that I had about this when I was writing it is it's about being a puzzle piece that it just doesn't seem to fit and things feel out of place. That could be with anything in general, but I know those were the feelings that I was going through when I was writing the lyrics for this song and coming through, fleshing out the ideas. And yeah, it really does feel like that's what it's saying. And I don't like going into details as to what it means to me further than just those conceptual thoughts, because I think everyone will have their own context and that will gel and mesh with the song in relation to them. So I try not to influence that, because I think it's a very special experience to have someone else fill in those blanks with their own history and their own past. But songwriting process wise, if I was to kind of just like break down how I was building it up, oftentimes once I love to just have the guitar or piano, whatever kind of one instrument, and I love to just hum melodies. And once I have that kind of feeling that there's a enmeshment between those two pieces, then I'll start to flesh out the lyrics, because for me lyrics are super important. I love storytelling, and I think if you can have the right lyrics and the right words mesh with the right melody on a very simple harmonic bed, then everything else that you add to it is just going to elevate it or help accentuate the different parts of the song itself. So I don't try to stress out too much with everything else, because once I have the core idea and I've built the song out in its structure, then really I can get more explorative and adventurous with the arranging part of things. But I try not to stress out too much about what's going to come in here, what's going to come in here, what's going to come in here, because I know that as long as I have the idea and I have the song and I can play it live in a very simple context, and when I blow it out and add all these pieces to it, it should still hold true. And if it loses that essence, then I know that I've gone too far. And actually that's a pretty cool thing to know. It'd also be nice to work in the other way around, but right now I'm just exploring what works for me as a songwriter. Hopefully that will change, because I think it's important to keep changing your process and keep finding new ways to talk about different ideas, because it makes it more enjoyable. It keeps things fresh, and there's always more that you can learn and there's always more that you can do differently. So I hope that was a bit of an interesting look behind the making of this song. I definitely would say that this song isn't by any means finished from a production standpoint, because I know there's so many little tidbits that I can add to it. And that's kind of where I've been getting lost at the moment, because I don't have the knowledge or the experience with filling in those spaces. But I know that I can write a song that means something to me and I can be proud of it. And this song is one of them. And I hope it is for you. And if not, I hope one of the other songs that I make is for you. And if not as well, it's all good. There's music everywhere. Find what resonates with you and let them know that the music means something to them, because I'm sure that in the background they're working super hard. And as you can see, I'm probably not the only one doing something like this in a very DIY bedroom scenario, and it's not easy. It's a struggle for most days, to be honest, but there's nowhere else I'd rather be, and this will all make sense someday.